everybody, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips. Sorry, I'm little Miss Kiki here. Woke me up an hour early. Okay, no brain. I have no brain today. We're very slow today, Kiki. She's standing here going, "Can I jump on your lap, Mom?" Hi, welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host Anne, Disembodied Hands Queenie, Disembodied Beard John, a very sleepy Anne, and a very hyper Kiki today. Very hyper Kiki. Come here, hyper Kiki. One up. Kiki, one up. No. She's looking at me on the screen. She's standing here looking at my computer. Yeah, hi there. Hi there, you little beast. You're such a beast today. You're so beast. You're so beast. Why you wake up Mama so early? Yeah. Why you wake up Mama so early? All right, Kiki, work. Work. And I have to use a regular chair today because I strained a muscle in the front of my lower legs. So the kneeling desk is not where it's at today. And also I had to cancel going to CrossFit tonight, which really bums me out. I'm going to do something different today. We're different, Papa. We're going to go different. We want that. And we want this. We'll use the old bottle, though. Nope, wrong one. Wrong one. I am misplacing paints, apparently, everywhere I turn. I think I only have one bottle of this now, so. I'm just like tired, like, you know, because the Keekers woke me up so early. So I'm a slow Ann today. My energy level is definitely not as high as it could be. Thanks, little dog. Thanks to the little dog. So I decided I want to go something a bit more natural. I need to start putting in, I'm not going to keep this dark purple. Enough. Settle. I'm not going to keep this dark purple. I'm going to go browns instead. We desperately need some earth tones, or this is just going to be a rainbow elf of doom, which I really don't want. When you are working with a lot of vibrant colors, things tend to go that way. They tend to just look like a kaleidoscope or a rainbow, and we don't necessarily want that. We want a strong color identity, sense of personality. We don't want to just look like we puked colors all over the model. So we are going to go with some browns today. And I'm still debating. I'm going to use a combo though. I'm going to use a lot of different earth colors on her since she's druidy. I'm kind of feeling like this is my trio. That'll be black and brown, ruddy leather, and griffin golden brown, which is a lot like the old chestnut gold. And you can get this color or get close to it by mixing your yellow oxide with just a touch of your brown oxide, which are both of those colors are still available. This is a super easy color to mix, folks. Hey there, Happy Machine. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a little sleepy today. My dog woke me up very early. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to kind of try to figure out where I want these various browns. I think I want lighter browns out here. I'm going to maybe do a pattern. I'm still tossing it around, guys. I'm still tossing it around. Maybe I just need to go with more of a dark, and then maybe the laces need to be a different color. I don't know. I'm kind of like figuring it out. Kind of figuring it out today. Although maybe we'll just, we'll continue to think about the browns, and instead we'll do these up here. I'm not going to do them as feathers because I've already repeated the blue color from the bird and her hair up here. I'm going to do these as big leaves that are coming up from the vines down here. So I need my green colors, which of course I didn't write down. But as I recall and looking at it, it's the Ancient Oak Naga Green Dungeon Slime kind of thing going on here, which is a combo I really enjoy. All right. So here we go. So we'll essentially work on these leaves while I figure out what the heck I want to do with the rest of it. Maybe we'll put the wood in as a dark brown. That'll let me work it up. So we'll get our green colors figured out. So our shadow colors there. We also want to go like our mid. I really enjoy mixing Naga green with ancient oak. It makes a beautiful green. Since these leaves are bigger, I don't want them to be quite as light all over as these little leaves around her face. So instead I'm going to lean it a little bit more into darks. There. And then we were using our lemon yellow actually as the highest highlight, but for now we'll just stay there and mix up all these colors and start working on the green. Adding a bit of water to each one. There we go. And we'll do our mixes. Adding a bit of Naga to this dungeon slime will take it a little more soft light green, spring green, one of my favorite colors. And we'll go down here. I think we need actually a bit more Naga. Yeah, we do. A bit more Naga. Bring that up a bit. Hopefully I have extra Naga green. I haven't actually checked my stash of that. I guess I should put that on my list. There we go. That's more what I want, kind of a medium, almost like a wilderness green, except it's a little lighter. And then our ancient oak for shading. So I'll add another drop of water to that since I'm going to use the other one as a base probably. And I want my shadow to be a little bit more translucent. Alrighty, let's get our Reaper Zero to do base coating because this is very large. Just want to kind of actually take a look here. I think I can see a little printer divot that's left on this leaf. There we go. That was easy to pop off. Boom. And now let's get in focus. See, I had to ice my leg this morning. Now that I've determined what it is. Ice my leg, no kneeling desk. No CrossFit. Super sad. Super sad Anne. That's what that amounts to. I am going to take a walk though. I'm going to just try to take a walk. Keeping a good foot strike. Because that's what made this all flare up anyway. That I forgot that I need to do a little more prep before I run. So we're just going to block this in with this mixture of Naga and ancient oak, which is a bit of a softer medium green. I don't want it to be super bright, because I don't want to pull all the attention away from her here. We're going to be darkening it down a lot with the ancient oak. But with greens, which tend to be like that kind of thing where they're very transparent when they're dark, and they're you can work them up from a really dark color, but I didn't quite want to do that here. I'm still trying to repeat the greens around the model. If I start too dark up here, I just feel like it wouldn't look like a leaf. And yes, they might be feathers. It's really hard to tell. You can paint them however you want, but I'm going to paint them like leaves. Because I need that color accent more than I need a blue accent, essentially. Like the feathers that we've got are blue-black, and I don't really need that up here. What I do need is to keep pulling greens around the model. And then I need to look at some of this and figure out what's a vine. I definitely have, like, I can see it a bit because like leaves are coming out here. And then it's pretty much the smooth part here. And then of course more leaves are coming out here, so this is obviously also the smooth part here is going to link up with that part of it. So pretty much just going over trying to figure out what's what. While I think about how I want to do these leather. Cool, APC, thank you. Check out my YouTubes if you haven't. It's youtube.com /@paintingbig, I think. But I have a series on fundamentals of mini painting that covers beginner techniques. And I have a series on concepts of mini painting where I'm starting to talk about color theory a bit. I only have time to put up about one video a month right now, but it's slowly growing. There's the Quindy with the spam. So the YouTube is the third one from the bottom. So what I'm doing here is color composition, which means I'm repeating colors that I've already used on the model in other places on the model. What that does is helps the eye of the viewer kind of move around the model and see all the details. I'm just kind of looking. I think that's another vine coming down here. Because I see this little curl, this little tendril right here. I don't want to paint all these right now, but I will mark them with a little bit of green so I know. Because I don't want to, I'm going to be holding the model down here for a bit yet, so I don't want to really paint a lot down there. Yep, that's also a vine, because that joins up to this vine. All right. Yeah. So that just kind of gives me an idea. And of course that little tendril right there is definitely a vine. With another one with leaves coming out. That actually might be, that's wood. I'm going to say that's wood also, unless I can see that there's actually a vine there, but I think I'm going to do that as wood. Even though it like feels like those should be leaves, but they're not, they don't make sense that way. And this one is definitely textured like wood. And this, they both seem to be coming off of this bottom part, so it's hard to say. It's a very green stuff. Nope. Yeah, it is a very green stuff. It's almost exactly the same color as the green. We might do some green later, but we'll see. I'm just examining like what I'm going to do. So the thing is, I still do need some darks. So if I do this, I kind of need to take it dark. We know these teeth are going to be lighter. And I haven't decided if I'm going to make these, this interlacing a color. If I did, I think I'd have to make it green. So let's block it in green, except a darker green. Let's actually use our ancient oak and kind of block that in and see how it looks. I'll still be highlighting with this other color. Since I've got all my green on the top and sides, it makes sense to throw some green into the mix in the middle. I'm going to pull out since this model's so big. You really need somewhere to lock up your models, Kerniko. A cat-proof cabinet. Then they'll probably find something else to break, given, because they're used to breaking things, and they're probably going to sulk if you remove their toys. Because they probably think those are their toys. There's also a bunch of stuff in here, so we have to figure that out, right? We do have our blue as an accent color, so I can do like a blue wrap on the side here, and that'll help repeat that color around the model a little bit more. All right, and we've got a couple of leaves coming out here, so we got to pop those out. And then I'm going to have to do another coat. Since green does tend to be, when you're thinning it, which I am, green does tend to be a little transparent. But that just means 2 coats. It's not a big deal. Oh, I see another tiny nubbin. I got most of the 3D print stuff off. There's just a couple of little tiny ones that I didn't get. There we go. Now we've got green. Green is like starting to spread around the model. It won't be anywhere over here, but we've at least got it kind of cycling here. Oh, well, hopefully he fixes it, Pendrake. I'm going to double down on this going dark down the front here. Do another coat so we get a more solid color. Alrighty. Yep. This will be interesting. Oh, a raid. Well, Cena, thank you. Dang, that's huge. Hey guys, I'm Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures. I'm a little sleepy today because my puppy woke me up at, well, let's just say it was early. Other than that, we're working on our giant Sophie model, which we've decided to paint as a World of Warcraft Night Elf Druid. She has a little otter familiar that I'm not working on yet, or animal companion, I should say. Let me see if I can reach him. Where did he go? There he is. He's probably the cutest part of the model. This was sculpted by Christine Van Patten. He's a little pack otter. He's so adorable. So we'll do him last, but I decided I wanted to paint this model as a night elf because it really looks like one. And I was kind of liked those funky skin tones they have, so I thought I would head out with that. Right now I'm kind of mapping in colors so that I don't get into trouble. So when you're using a non-human skin tone like this, it definitely counts as a color in your color scheme, and you really have to work to make sure that you don't paint yourself into a color corner with it. So I'm going to be mapping in some browns and some earth tones to help kind of offset all the bright colors I'm using on the rest of the model here. And that is what we are doing today. If I can see from yawning. Sorry. I promise to be more peppy tomorrow after I've had proper sleep. Actually, it's probably good that I'm not going to my workout tonight because I really am tired. Alrighty, so let's map in this black and brown, and let's hit the bodice with that as well. We have a lot of different layers here too, and that's also kind of making it difficult. Oh, got a little bit of dried paint. I want to get that out of my well palette before I drop the paint in there. And apparently I need a pokey tool because it's going to clog on me today. It should just be the way it is lately. No, I think that Otter gets to be done after Sophie's done on the same kind of day. Yeah, this is like serious. There's some serious dried paint. You can see it coming out. Sometimes I use the pokey tool and I just kind of like pry at it. If I'm not able to push it in very easily, that means usually there's dried paint in there. So I usually have to work it out a little bit before I can get it to come out. And let's see if that worked. But no, I have stuff already slated for the other days, Pendrick. I don't want to really upset my rotation. Otter is my reward for finishing this model. If I don't have a reward for finishing something this big, then it's very difficult for me to finish. Hi there, Thera. I am okay. I am tired today. My dog woke me up a significant portion of time earlier than I was actually ready to wake up. And then, of course, I could not get back to sleep because that's how it works, right? So I am a sleepy Ann today. But I'm here and the day is going forward. And I'll get a nap. I swear. My power nap will help rejuvenate me later this afternoon. How are you? Yeah, it's just the puppy. She's still a puppy. She's not 2 yet, so I can still call her a puppy because she sure acts like one. But yeah, this morning she was all fussy. Alrighty. Let us get this. I'm going to block in. Let me get a slightly smaller brush. I want to block in the bodice here. Just the front of it. Obviously, we're still doing green work on the back. Maybe I will actually get to finishing that green work today. I just like to do it. I want to do it at the end of a stream, so I'm not worrying about touching it while it cures. So instead of this dark purple, I'm going to put down a really dark brown. This is blackened brown. It's one of the darkest browns we make. It is kind of a dark chocolate color. This will help me get some earthier tones on here so that I'm not in danger of clashing with anything. Browns, dark browns pretty much go with everything. They just don't really clash with anything. Oh, bummer. That's too bad, Thera. That's hard. I did that for my old girl a couple of years ago. I guess it would be almost 3 years ago now. My heart dog. And now I have a bratty puppy. She's totally David's heart dog. All right, so that dark brown still, that should be okay. Okay, I'm gonna get some liner out. I'm gonna actually start lining a little bit around here as I continue painting these areas. I have to stop and think. I'm gonna continue my dark brown down onto the skirt because it's obviously the same piece of clothing, because you can see the stitching coming down here and it comes down to there. But I don't want this to stay this dark, so I'm probably gonna bring it up with Ruddy Leather. I had thought about making some designs on it with the Griffin Golden Brown as well. But I've got to be careful there. I should be okay, because if I make designs on the upper part, it's all part of the most important part of the mini. When you do freehand and stuff, you got to be careful that you're not distracting. And although I do want to carry the design down onto this, you can only see a tiny bit of this at the front, so you're really only going to see the design on the back. I have something geometric in mind. So I've got to continue this color down here then. Nice thing about black and brown is that it covers really, really well. I want to kind of stick it into the cracks here. Not really caring if it gets up onto some other pieces right now because everything is just primed, so I'm going to paint over that anyway. It's not a big deal. Now we're to the bigger part of the model. And again, I don't care if I blorf there, doesn't matter. I'm going to be carrying that, I'm going to be going over that color anyway. So we're going to just lay down things like this. And I can come back over this. You always want to be working against the wet edge here. It's what gives you a nice smooth base coat. Just make sure that your edge doesn't dry. That way the paint will always flow together and make a nice leveled base. If you must let an edge dry, do it on like an underside or a side of the model that people won't really see it, just in case you get something that looks a little chunky down there. You shouldn't if you're thinning your paint. So just essentially start either top to bottom, or in this case I started at one side and went around. There's even more like features down here. I mean, I've got belts. I've got like another, like a woven belt here around her. That can be multicolors. Maybe I'll take some blue and bring that down for that. Repeat that around the mini. But you can see this is a very complicated model. It's got a lot going on, it's got a lot of features, and that means you have to figure out a color for everything without like getting yourself into a color corner or clashing. And when this happens, I lean heavily on neutrals because they're not going to clash with anything, and they go with everything, and you can have both dark and light ones. So yeah, that's getting there. All right, so if I'm going to do that, that means I want to pretty much do all the leather in this color, and then when I bring up other colors on it, I'll probably use these colors to highlight it, and then I'll create like lighter patterns with the lightest of these. Oh yeah, I used to have those too. Bloodworms, and they love those. And brine shrimp. I'm just going to paint right over these laces. I am going to do them in a different color, but right now I don't really care, and I just want to cover the surface. I'll go back over it later. There's a lot of exaggerated features on this model because it was originally, you know, it was sculpted to be a 30 millimeter also. So when you blow that up, this translated really well, but you can still see that there's a lot of thicker details from that upsize. Is that 28 millimeter or 32 millimeter, whatever this is, these laces would be just a fine size. But when you blow the sculpt up, you inevitably get some chunky details. So yeah, we're gonna just bring in these browns. Then maybe I'll bring in my cream as well. And that'll kind of show us like what we need to do where. I feel like these are definitely feathers as opposed to leaves. So I probably need to do these dark, which means I'll be bringing this hood up for sure. I'll probably leave the interior of the hood dark to give us a barrier between the skin and the leaves and everything else. But I'll probably be bringing up a design on the hood otherwise. This is about the point of the model where I really need to start committing these colors. If I don't stop and kind of methodically block things in, I'm really risking painting myself into a color corner. The more you push without stopping to kind of just slowly map everything, the more likely you are to run into an issue where you're not sure where to go next. So at this time, if I block things in and I change my mind, it's easy to change it. I haven't like put any highlights or shadows on. If I kept going, you know, finish paint jobbing various parts of this, then I would run into that problem potentially where I'd be like, oh wait, I already committed all this work and it's not working. What do I do? Right. The reason we're going with the dark brown on this is because we need to alternate like dark and light. It's the best technique for just bringing things out without having to line a lot, although I also do line, of course, just because I like the look of it. But you could technically get away with just really shading down and making sure you're alternating like dark. In this case, it's going to be like dark for the bird, medium for the skin tone. I'm probably going to make this fur light, cream colored. So dark, medium, light, dark, light, medium, you know, and we keep going, right? Medium dark for the hair here. It depends on how much I bring up this leather as well. I'm kind of like, the jury is out right now as far as how much I'm going to highlight this. and how light I want it to go. It's really kind of becoming my dark. So that means I can't bring it up very much. Although, like I said, I'm considering doing some geometric patterns on it to essentially give it some lighter areas. So one way to deal with that. Just kind of looking around, seeing what I got. Okay, we're going to go and brown this. I may change this color. This little leather piece here, it could very much go to be an accent color. I'm just kind of, but it definitely looks like leather, so I'm going to do it as a piece of leather. And it has a fur fringe on it. No, I wouldn't do him tropical. Remember, you got to stick to your color scheme, Twisted Oma. You can't just like throw a bunch of weird colors right up here, or it's not going to match anything. So I'm matching my bird up here and doing the blue-black. If you are doing your Sophie in much more of a tropical scheme, then absolutely you can do like bright parrot colored feathers back there. Just keep in mind your overall color scheme. It's got to fit it. If you just randomly throw bright places onto there, then people are just going to stare at the side of her head and they're not going to look at the rest of the model. They're just going to keep staring at the bright spots that don't make sense. Hey, green users. Alrighty. I'm going to back out and look at the entirety. The brown makes sense. It's repeated around the model. We're starting to see all the other details, and boy, there are a lot of them. I usually go dark with the feet anyway, so I think we are gonna... She's got boots and she's got wraps on them, apparently. That's what this is. I'm not sure that I'm going to make the wraps a different color. It's just going to essentially make it really difficult color-wise. So I think I'm going to do everything just brown. I mean, there's a point where you want more excitement on a figure, but it's not the feet. I'm going to need more paint because this is so big. I'm running out of black and brown. Because I still need to do the stick. Survived the heat yesterday, Julie? We survived it here. Pretty barely. David came home and it was like still 87 or something. We had to open up the house and it was still 85 because we just couldn't handle it anymore. Today is much cooler. Should only hit 83, which is actually very pleasant here when there's low humidity. Just going to mix up a little more black and brown. Uh-oh. I'm trying to arrange a weekend to go home and see my family. But my brother's family is always so busy. It's like seriously hard to find a weekend where they don't have issues. All right. 82 today here in Mountain View. And 60% humidity, not too bad. Technically, I should probably use a bigger brush than this for the feet. It would go a lot faster. Hey, Roger. Oh god, I can't do that, Laura. Your sister's like that, just hellish to schedule with. I mean, part of it is just, you know, is kids in sports, kids in high school. Except now it's just kid, because Lauren's in college, so. But that's why before I planned my trip up there, I had to like clear it with their schedule. And now my brother's like, oh, I was wrong. Not this weekend. Maybe the one after. I'm glad I didn't buy a plane ticket this morning. But that's fine. Gets a little close to Reapercon, but oh well. It is what it is. Unlike last year, I shouldn't be like feverishly preparing to publish a book right before Reapercon, so I should be fine. I'll probably bring up a few books to Reapercon just like last year. Oh, they prioritize traveling a lot for their family. Well, I mean, mine just came back from that 2.5-week trip to Europe. So, yeah. That's fine. It just means it's like a little harder for me to plan stuff. But at least they got back to me fast this time. Usually it's like pulling chicken's teeth to get responses. I have to end up coordinating with my mom because she knows their schedule. Especially during the summer when they're all in Wisconsin. She's probably more up on their schedule than they are sometimes. I'll have to see if I'm going to take more than just a couple days. I kind of wanted to do an art trip with my mom. Go up north for a couple days and paint. Do some plein air. I've always wanted to do that with her. I thought we'd have a fun time. And now that she's getting older, then it's no longer like a, hey mom, let's fly to Hawaii. It's more like a, hey mom, want to drive up north and find something pretty to paint. So this is very like predictable and like boring right now, but it won't be once we start doing highlights and shadows. And what I may end up doing is doing some of the wraps in like that dark blue black, but with a very little highlight down here. I haven't decided, because if I decide this is too close, even after I put the colored designs on this, then I may decide to take this. For example, I might take it a step darker with walnut. That's probably the way I should go with it, is take it even a step darker. It looks fine from the front, but on the back has all of that brown. Yes, chicken's teeth specifically. Yeah, it was all I could do to listen to, what's that book about checklists? But they talk about air traffic and how airplanes were only made safe like due to exhaustive checklists and how much they depend on their checklists. I think it's the Checklist Manifesto. But they talk about a lot of pretty horrifying stuff in there. I managed to make it through it because it was interesting. Yeah, I'll go darker, I think, with these. I can always bring them back up if I want, but they're just like bugging me. They're bugging me. It's too much. I get to be temperamental on short sleep. I get to impulsively paint over things. But sometimes you have to put it on to realize that it is too... Like on a small model, this wouldn't be too light. But on a big model, remember the more space a color takes up, the brighter it gets, like the more intense and more saturated it looks, which means that a color which would normally be just fine on a little model looks too bright or too light or too saturated on this big model. And that's the problem with the black and brown. So yeah, I'm going to just paint over what I just did. Walnut brown has a very, very high coverage, so it's no problem to do so. And that's gonna, we'll just keep those both, we'll keep the other one, the color, so you can see the difference. But I like boots to be really dark. I like them to not distract at all. The only like detailing and attention I like to draw to them is if I'm going to do some weathering. And we might do some weathering on these because they're big. We'll definitely do some weathering on the leather straps. Okay. So essentially, just the big difference, right? Like the one is just like all too much of this color, but the minute you put that darker brown in there, suddenly it disappears and you don't care anymore. So especially once I add geometric designs to the back of this model, this will just kind of disappear and the feet will just kind of be there, and that's what I want. I don't want a lot of attention down here. There was a reason Frank Frazetta always painted the bottom of legs dark. He just let them fade into the terrain because he understood they weren't important. In most compositions, in action compositions, they were not the point of the piece. Who knows, maybe he just hated painting feet, but he had a point. Morning, Daffodwear. Once we have these figured out here, then we'll move back up and we'll start highlighting some of that green. But I needed to make some decisions, so I was like, all right. There we go. So now that's much better. It's not clashing. It's very much pulling apart. I like that. All right, cool. We'll keep that for now. But yeah, we have a lot of other places that we can put little color accents here. And we are going to be working with some like gold color as well, so we might have to do that. But we've got this little elaborate border. We've got this little belt, her necklace, things like that. So we are going to have lots of places where we have to really decide what colors we can use without distracting too much or pulling too much attention away from other parts of the model, or overlapping the same color, or yeah, there's a lot. So we shall have to figure that out later. All right, leaf time. So I want to take my ancient oak and use it on the undersides of these leaves. So since I've thinned this down, it's not like really heavy coverage over the top of this base coat. Still leaves some details. It just grays it out a little, which is what you want usually from something in shadow. And again, you can paint these as leaves or feathers. I just happen to like them as leaves. I'm gonna darken my mid a little bit, or darken my highlight a little bit. And as we can see, hey Sigwolf, long time no see. I need to throw a little bit more water in this. There, I just want a solid base coat up here. I'm tired, Richard. Kiki woke me up early, very early. And now, of course, she's sleeping out in the hallway. Dang dog. So I am looking forward to a nap later. But I have a lot to do before that happens. Ooh. Yeah, to be a dog. Waking people up and then sleeping yourself. Oh, I think she just didn't drink enough water and she had to go. She didn't drink enough water yesterday when it was really hot here, Richard. And so she was uncomfortable, and once I took her out, she was full of beans. But of course, you know, at that point, it was hard to get back to sleep. When you walk out and it's like sunny and obviously daylight, you can't like, you know, like sometimes I can just like get up and use the restroom and go back to sleep. But that's, you know, not having to go out into the fresh air and sunshine. Kind of hard to ignore that. Your brain just kind of wakes up. Oh, she's been napping during streams for a long time now, Pendrick. She doesn't take naps right next to me, like Kiri used to do. Like I said, she's more David's heart dog. She's not my heart dog. So just highlighting a bit. We'll vary that up a little bit. Oh, bummer, Laura. Yes, fell asleep right after the vet visit. Yep, exactly. They're like, oh, okay, yay, boonk. And you're like, I hate you. Just highlighting, highlighting. I'm bringing some of this stuff together toward the center. I'll bring it up another level eventually. Keeks, what are you up to? I hear you in there. I don't recognize that noise. It makes me nervous. But yeah, I'm going to be sleepy. I might have to take a nap right after lunch instead of waiting till later in the afternoon, because I just don't think I'm going to be very good at what I need to do if I don't. I need to edit my video today and get it posted, and then start working on the PDF for the YouTube and the Patreon. I'm going to darken a little bit down where this color drops off. Want it to be a little darker where it drops away from the light. That's why you need to paint big minis, Laura, or sorry, Shadow Raven. Painting bigger minis, you can see the details without being cross-eyed. You still have a lot of details to yell about, you know, you can complain all day, but it's a little less cross-eyes inducing. It's alright, Pendrake. It's all for the, you know, good of having a better connection, right? Hopefully. So just shading that down a little bit. I want most of my highlight to be up here in this area where the leaf is really hitting the light. It'll be a good day when I get sleep. Ugh. One second. I have to see what that dog is up to. You know that whole it's too quiet thing? You being good? You being good? She's like, it's not me, Mommy. It's not me. I promise. Yeah, it's not you. All right. All right. Stay, be a good girl. All right. Had to check. You guys know. Yep. Well, and I know that I put one of her... She chews her bully sticks down to nubbins, and then she wants to swallow the nubbin, which leads her to barf it up at 5 a.m. So lately I keep a vigilant eye and rescue the nubbins and trade her for some high-value treats. But last night I didn't have time because we were about to start a game of Overwatch, and so I had to rush and put the nubbin into my waste paper basket under my desk in the computer room. And I was afraid she was digging around because I thought I heard some plasticky rustly noises, you know. But she just had a little piece of something out in the hall that I could rescue. So most of the time she'll trade really well. She likes that. She's twitching every time I say that word. Because usually it means Treats. I need to like it up close. And have that a little bit down here on the bottom. Oh, interesting, Richard. Huh. Yeah, I've never heard of those. I'm afraid that if it was cheese, she would just like mow through it in like 15 seconds. The ballistics at least take her a while. And then I do frozen treats for her in the summer. They put it in the bin for safekeeping. It's funny. They're like, this will keep Mom from taking it away. Oh, dang, she found it. Today is a day I would very much wish I still drank coffee. Crowley, yes. Very much. Very much wish that right now. Keekers, it's all your fault. All right, I want to get some lemon yellow and try to really highlight some of these leaves. What you got, Keeks? Oh, you good? Okay. Keeks like, Anne's not ready yet. It's not ready for my WALK. It only takes me 3 keys. Yeah, but it would make me really unhappy because of the way my guts react to the caffeine. I don't want to be really unhappy, so I'll pass. I'll pass. I'm very good lately. I've been off caffeine now for, what, a couple months? It's fine. Because of my creatine, I don't even notice it's gone. The creatine keeps me awake. It's helping me combat my sleepiness right now. Without the creatine, I don't know how I would feel right now. Creatine helped me, but it may not help everybody, APC. Creatine is a supplement. What? I need to... I think it helps in ATC uptake. Formed in protein metabolism, involved in the supply of energy for muscular contraction, etc. It's one of the most studied supplements. Natural source of energy that helps your skeletal muscles flex and contract. Helps create a steady supply of energy in your muscles so that they can keep working. But it's also been used to treat fatigue. So for me, it... you could hear colors. It's very bad. But the thing about creatine is that it appears to work a bit better on women, so apparently it hit me pretty hard. Now I'm used to it. but it definitely helped with my daily energy and quitting caffeine. But I found that the way to quit caffeine for me, I do about a half an hour. Like I lay down, it usually takes me like 5 or 10 minutes to get to sleep, and then I sleep until the timer goes off a half hour later. So I usually get about 20 minutes, 25, depending on how tired I am. Sometimes just 10. But yeah, I do power naps later in the day. But I quit caffeine by just slowly scaling. So I went from... Coffee was just bad for my guts, so I found it pretty easy to quit coffee. I went to black tea, and then I went to there are several mixes of black and green tea, and then I went to like part herbal tea, part caffeinated tea, and then I went to decaf tea, and that's where I am now. I'm in decaf land. But yeah, so that helped me scale down without headaches, the whole caffeine thing, slowly reducing it. I'll let myself have a decaf coffee, and that's about it these days, if I want one. But too much in it does mess with my guts, so... But yeah, creatine is not bogus. It's a very well-studied supplement, and they used it to treat post-COVID fatigue, among other things. So I found that it pretty much, like, replaces, like, the need for caffeine with me. It really helped give me more energy throughout the day. Oh, power naps, yeah. No, they're not bogus. You totally can do it. The only problem is that if I'm traveling or something where I don't get my nap, I can get a bit grouchy. Like we're heading for a weekend with David's parents next weekend, and we're going to be walking around a lot, and I know that I'm not going to get my power nap that whole weekend. So I'm just going to have to lump it and try not to be too grumpy. Just adding some lemon yellow highlights to get a little bit more variance here. Oh, creatine? Oh yeah, it's totally effective. I was shocked. I actually asked my coaches about it at my CrossFit class. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a thing, and it definitely hits women a little harder than men a lot of the time. Not for everybody, but often. It hit me really hard. Like I felt positively jittery with energy after I took it. So now I take about 2 pills with it after every meal. Apparently helps with your blood sugar too, since it helps with energy uptake from muscles. Well, naps are healthier for you than coffee. Although that's not true. That's not true. Caffeine is actually, for most people, caffeine is supposed to be healthy. Just not mine. My guts just decided that I'm not one of them. But for me, the nap is much healthier than the caffeine. There we go. Oh no, Carnico. So just that little touch of lemon yellow to help bring out parts of the leaf that are hitting the light, or that the light is hitting rather. And I probably want to take some of the lighter green and take down some of these darker parts as well toward those areas. I'm going to lighten up this area here. Just to make every part of the leaf that's facing upward lighter so the shadows are darker in the mid. My brush is usually, I squeeze it out, like I actually put it in my hand and kind of squeeze it out between my fingers before I reload it with paint. So it has enough water in it right now to hold a good tip without any paint in it. When I put paint in it, I tend to just dip like a third of my brush into the paint, and then I unload it so that I still have a nice tip, and you can just see the color a little bit on the brush so that I have control. Any more paint is going to get sloppy, and it's going to be hard to control. Was that, did that answer your question, APC? So I believe in keeping a little bit of moisture in my brush because I use a very thin brush, which it would be easy for the paint to dry out in if I didn't have a little moisture in it. But I don't leave a lot of moisture there because I want to be able to control my paint. So I pretty much just squeeze excess moisture out of it with my fingertips before I load. All right, that's a little bit better. I like those. Yeah, leaves. Very druidy. Ah, painted in a very dry place. Yeah, that can affect stuff. I mean, today is about 50% humidity here, so it's moderate. I've got my window open, and it is warmer. Alrighty. But yeah, the humidity of your ambient environment can absolutely affect your results. It depends on if you're using a dry palette or a wet palette as well. I use a so a dry palette. I find that enables me to control the humidity or control my paint's drying time a little bit and its consistency a bit more, which I prefer because I'm a control freak. When it comes to my painting, I like to be able to control all factors I can so that I can get predictable results every time. The wet palette for me is just kind of a little bit annoying because it's always different. Every brush full of paint is a little bit different. Yeah, they get big. Hailstones. Just gonna get a little bit of light over here. Good. Kiki, that's enough. Yeah, it makes sense if you chill down the well palette. But I mean, I just use a little bit of extra water. Like I'm making fairly big puddles here. I'm using usually at least 6 drops of paint plus at least 2 drops of water. And I find that with about, 7 to 8 plus drops of fluid in the well, that the paint stays wet for the entire stream. Probably about halfway through I have to add a drop of water like I just did to that color. But otherwise my paint stays good all stream in this well. And more to the point, it'll stay at a consistent consistency so that I don't have to worry about getting too much water or too little water in my brush, which on a wet palette I find it's always a little bit different. Doesn't matter for most techniques, but it does matter for some. Hi, Kiki. Hi. What's up? What's up, Keekers? It's not time yet. It's almost time, but it's not time yet. No, it's not. Got 15 minutes left. Right. Yeah. Well, that's what I recommend for everybody is to start with both. And if you have trouble with paint consistency on the wet palette, do it on the dry palette until you have a gut feeling for it. You'll just get a gut feeling a little bit faster because your paint will always feel like the same. Whereas on a wet palette, it's hard to dial in. Depends very much on if you're using a very precise amount of water with your sponge every time. Like you could probably game the wet palette. Like you could go, okay, I am putting a half a cup of water exactly into my wet palette every time. I am putting, I am using, probably that alone would give you more consistent results. If you're always putting the same amount of water, if you're always using the same brand of paint, you'll be able to game it in and figure it out, right? Or with time. I mean, my husband uses a wet palette exclusively. He uses Reaper MSP. He has a good grasp of it. But even he struggles with smooth blending because you need such precision with that. Like, you'd be better off just wet blending and then highlighting and trying to glaze to get a better blend. So there's some techniques that are made much harder, I think, on the wet palette. Most of the time it's like smooth when you're trying to do smoothness because it takes such precise control of paint consistency. And you can certainly do it. There are painters who can. It just is a lot harder. %, 60 to 65 degree. Yeah. Well, it depends on how much water and paint you're putting into them, too. Like, I'm putting in, at least 8 drops of fluid. 8 to 10 drops of fluid is probably my average in each of these wells. And I usually have to drop, I drop another drop of water in anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour. Like, it varies depending on the paint consistency, too. Like, if you're using a brand of paint that's a little bit thicker, or older paints that are a bit thicker, you may find that it dries up a little bit faster. Like, there's so many variables to this. Yeah, if you've got very little fluid in your wells, what's happening is you are leaving too much surface area. So the point of doing deeper paint puddles is that you have a certain depth of fluid, right? You've got that puddle. It's like a cup, right? So, do I have anything? So yeah. So, like a cup. So if you only have this much fluid in that cup, it's just that you've got so little depth compared to this vast surface area that your paint dries out very fast. But if you give it a decent depth of fluid, all of this water down here is a greater percentage, roughly speaking, compared to the top that's exposed to the air. So by minimizing the area exposed to the air versus the depth of the puddle, your paint stays good for longer. So the deeper a puddle I do, the more paint I load into my palette, the more it stays, the consistency I want it for longer. And I usually will only do more drops than that if I'm planning to paint for a few days. And then I just put a saran wrap, some drops of extra fluid in, and then saran wrap the palette and to keep my paint good for a couple days. Yeah, so there's so many variables with that sort of thing. Is the thing. What do I want to do? I want to do this staff, and I'm gonna do it dark, really dark. I want my Reaper brush. I'm going to test this out because technically up here I've got this really dark blue. I do need to still bring up the blue down here, by the way. I'm hoping that when I bring the blue up enough on the underside that it will be fine. Otherwise I'm putting a dark next to a dark And I may find that the crystal just kind of like fades into the wood, although I am going to highlight this wood. And so for here, what I'm depending on to keep these things separate from each other is that the wood is going to be warmer and the crystal is cooler. So that's another type of contrast that you can rely on. If you can't do, like if you have to put a dark next to a dark or a light next to a light or a mid next to a mid, you can get away with it if one is very warm and the other is very cool. That can give you a bit of contrast to help with that. But yeah, I do have more crystal stuff to do for sure. Kiki, no nipples, please, thank you. She's been worrying, making a worry spot in her fur lately. Just when she's bored. I think this will work. And of course there's that vine coming up on top of the crystal that I also need to do. So this is essentially testing this to make sure that it looks okay. That's not too dark. And that the crystal still will stand out. I think the crystal will still stand out because it's got that vibrant blue coming up on these sides. And also the geometric patterns, because these are freehand, essentially. They work as freehand. So they're going to attract your eye, whereas the wood of the staff is just going to kind of fall away because it's dark. As I do the texture on the wood, it'll come forward again, but not as much as that crystal. All right. Yeah, I think that'll work okay. So I figured some stuff out today as far as color goes. I still need to do the eyes and the beak of the bird, which are going to be that yellow-orange color. That's going to add a color that I need to work in other places, but it's going to mostly be in the gold. There's not a lot of metal on this model, so I may end up using some golden leather, which is why I got out this Griffin Golden Brown. So we'll see how we can figure out to repeat that color. I can almost certainly repeat it in these little, like the decorative belts and fringe. This is a blackbird, a common blackbird. I looked it up. There's another name for them in Europe, apparently. But I imagine there are a number of birds with like orange eyes and beaks. Just a blackbird there, yeah. As in the 4 and 20 baked in a pie type of bird. That's a lot of birds. That must have been a really big pie. We got that little vine curl here, and I'm just highlighting it with a little bit of texture. No, Kendrick asked about the bird, and I said it was was just a blackbird. We're not talking birds again. Not really. Not like we were. So I'm going to need to bring the highlights up on that a little bit, I think. Grabbing my smaller brush to get my lemon yellow. I will be streaming this weekend on my own channel. I took last week off. So I'll be back this week with the dragon, probably dragon bust. That'll be twitch.tv/paintingbig on Saturday around 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. I will never remember that name. The ring whatever. Yeah, SKU. Yeah, grackles can get that way. They're a weird bird anyway. Very smart. Very invasive. There used to be huge flocks of them in Texas where I was at certain times of the year. They were just super loud. No IPC. I don't like them very much. I've got them over there. I've got Fire and Earth sitting over actually on top of my shelf just to remind me that they're there. But I don't like them very much, so I don't like them nearly as much as I liked the Water and the Air one. So that's just a no. Like, I really, especially for something big like that, I have to really like the model or I'll never make my way through the whole thing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, like I like this model, I think enough for it to carry me through the whole thing. But it's a rarity. It's a rarity that I can do a model this big on stream and finish the whole thing. But yeah, I think the fact that it's a Night Elf concept will carry me through. Like, I want to see it done. And I don't have to do the wings, which for me is like a huge, awesome. But yeah, so, and of course we've got Tiny Otter for eventually. But I think that's pretty much where I want to end. On tomorrow, Friday edition, we're back to our cool art piece, which is more and more just looking like a regular mini, now that we've gotten all that underpainting, or most of the underpainting covered up. Oops, sorry, I unfocused too fast. So yeah, so we were working with adding in some of that greenish, grayish tone to suggest like the shadows here. And I added in blue to actually make his vest blue, and the sleeves there at the same. I'm fighting with those sleeves though. I'm not sure that I like them. So the back, we still have a lot of our blue underpainting on the shield and the pack. So I imagine that tomorrow we're going to be like fine-tuning a lot of this stuff and just figuring out what to do with it. Yes, on Reaper Live? Even if it's just John. All right, cool. Cool. So yeah, we'll just keep working on this guy. He's getting really close to finished, and I think it was a really cool kind of experiment that we did with him. But yeah, I've got a lot of blue still to kind of like knock out and put more of this neutral color in, like just like James Gurney did. So, yes. Oh, okay. John said 100% even if it's just me up there. Good deal. Excellent. So yeah, so we'll keep on working on this guy tomorrow. Thanks everybody for your time. I'm sorry I was so sleepy. I'll be back with more energy tomorrow, I swear. But first, Keekers needs a walk. She demands the walk. Yes, bye, Crowley. Thanks for hanging out. Yes, sleepy, sleepy, sleepy. So yeah, there we go, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Quindy. As always, enjoy Reaper Live later, even if it's just John, and I'll see you all tomorrow. All right, bye-bye.